Oh, I don't know. Welcome back, everybody, and congratulations to all of you. Let's all please rise as Legislator Harcum leads us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, give us the strength, courage, and wisdom to always act in the interest of the people of Westchester while we're in this chamber. Let us keep in mind that every decision that we make impacts upon the life, health, and safety of all our great county residents. Amen. Madam Clerk.
Majority Leader Harcum.
Here.
Minority Leader Ms. Hano. Here. Ms. Borgia.
Here.
Mr. Burrows. Here. Mr. Gelfarb. Mr. Kaplowitz.
Present.
Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers.
Here.
Ms. Perez.
Here.
Mr. Ryan.
Here.
Ms. Shimsky.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Spreckman. Mr. Testa. Here. Ms. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Chairman.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I move the consent agenda with no suggested revisions.
Mr. Mazzano. Mr. Williams.
I'm in agreement.
We're on consent. Mr. Harcum for the minutes approval.
Thank you, sir. We have two sets of minutes that I'm moving. Monday, October 28th, the 11 a.m. meeting, and Monday, October 28th, the 7 p.m. meeting.
Without objection, members, so ordered. Madam Clerk.
For public comment, each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes. I'll call the names of the speakers and ask that you please come down the aisle to my left behind the black ropes. Bill Spade, Eileen Gallagher, Ed Frank, Robert Fleischer. And the first speaker is Bill Spade.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Bill Spade. I apologize, I have a little bit of a cold, so hopefully you'll hear me clearly still. I am a resident of the town of Newcastle, and myself, along with other people who are also residents there, are here tonight to apprise you of an item that you're going to be considering for funding approval, which is the Conifer Affordable Housing Project that's proposed in the town of Newcastle, Chappaqua. We have, for now almost 3 years, been trying to make people aware of the terrible location that this project is proposed at. And we've been through the process with our town board. You may know they recently approved a special permit for this project, which is 28 units on a particular piece of property there. That approval was very controversial, and by a 3-2 vote approved it. We have since had an election a couple of weeks ago, and a new town board is going to take seat, and that part of that election was a very strong community statement that this project is not an appropriate location for affordable housing in our town. We embrace affordable housing. We are trying to make other affordable housing locations come to fruition. In fact, we presented to our town board in May of 2012 an alternate location behind Town Hall on a residential street, and they have done nothing with that proposal. They've otherwise stuck to trying to bring through this Conifer proposal. A couple of key points about this. If you don't know, this site is a 1/3 of an acre piece of land on which they proposed a 4-story building that will cover the entire site. The building will be property line to property line between the railroad tracks and the Sawmill Parkway and the Route 120 bridge. There's no open land on the property. It'll be for 28 units. It'll be at least, there are 17 2-bedrooms, 11 1-bedroom. There will be at least 20 children on this property living in this project, and there will be no place for those children to play on the property, no place for them to go. There's no connection to the town other than by a bridge onto the highway bridge and then walking into town. So no place for children to be able to go out in the evening when they would like to go play. So we think that this property particularly is anathema to a family location. And we are advocating this alternative location that is in a residential neighborhood and will have open land and a place for a playground. Thank you. Thank you. Also, the building is a fire hazard. They are going to require 8 variances from the state building code in order to build this building. There will be a hearing in front of the State Board of Review in December. We've had a fire
Bill,
engineer review it.
we would need you to wrap up.
I'll wrap up. Thank you.
And then you can certainly hand your written comments that you seem to have to the clerk, and certainly she will distribute those to all the members if that's what you prefer, but please wrap it up.
Thank you. 3 minutes is tough. Lastly, I would ask you all to review the federal monitor's letters regarding site qualities. And there are 4 points he makes strongly about site qualities, and this particular location does not comply with any of those, and it is anathema to those. So we encourage you to look carefully at this project. We have an alternative location. We would like you to see that. We would invite you to town, and we'd like to work with Michael or any of the other legislators that are interested. We would like to invite you to town to see the site, get involved. This is affecting 28 families, and we think it's not the right location. You all can make it happen, or you can say, we need to do something different to do the right thing here. Thank you.
Eileen Gallagher.
Hi, I'm very nervous. I've never done this before, but I just feel a very strong passion about this. I have to say, when this was first mentioned and the location was first mentioned for this building, people that I know all thought, no, that'll never happen. What a ridiculous, totally unsafe, totally isolated location. And I do echo Bill Spade when he said, please, if you can possibly, and I know you're all very busy, but if you can come and personally stand in the space, you would kind of get a feel for what we're talking about. I met with a group of people recently, about a month ago, who are very dedicated, very interested in preserving the safety and well-being and a welcoming home for people to come and live in our town. When we look together as a group at this particular location, it is not welcoming. It is, I don't even know how people would open their windows in that building, to be honest with you, because you have the trains roaring right past and cars going the other way and the noise and the shaking of the building. It's sad. It's very heartbreaking. The building that Bill was referring to that was presented about a year ago is a lovely, lovely location next to a park, next to a school and nice little shops in the town, and is a very much part of our downtown. I'm baffled as to why that location is not even being considered. I just want to close by saying, please help us, and again, if you can visit the site, but if not, just consider all the comments. Thank you so much.
Ed Frank.
I gave everybody a handout. Maybe you could just possibly follow along with me. I'm a licensed engineer, and as such, it's part of my profession to protect life, health, safety, where the design of a building, a bridge, a highway comes into account. So I am very concerned about safety. And if you could just follow through with me, on page 1 is a Google overview of the site. The Parkway off-ramp on one side, the Metro North on another side, the bridge, which isn't in this picture, on the other side, and it shows in and out. I don't know of any other residential building that has its vehicular entrance at the foot of a high-speed parkway off-ramp. I think that's very dangerous. About 10 years ago, the town of Newcastle hired Vollmer Associates to do a comprehensive study of the downtown area. And I'm going to read verbatim what they said about the off-ramp. Presently, the deceleration from the northbound exit off Sawmill River Parkway to the Chappaqua exit is almost non-existent, posing a significant safety hazard when vehicles exit immediately after the bridge abutment. If you could take a look at photograph number 2, here you are going north, no deceleration lane, no visibility whatsoever of the off-ramp, how many cars are in the queue. Conifer's traffic engineer, in my opinion, has made some wrong assumptions about thinking that people wouldn't need a car, but they will need a car. There's no supermarket in Chappaqua. There's no affordable shops and services in Chappaqua. Conifer's traffic engineer only saw a queue of 4 vehicles on the exit ramp. If you take a look at photograph number 3, Hunt's Place, in front of 54 Hunt's Place, which is the Conifer site, is actually offset to the south. So this is already a dangerous intersection and becomes more so. Photograph number 4 shows how motorists will have to drive directly across the bottom of the exit ramp to enter the building. So there's 2 dangerous locations, right at the foot, people driving in, people coming out, and the head of the exit ramp where cars are backed up in the queue, you can see nothing. Volma also offered a solution to that. Unfortunately, people end up, the new deceleration lane would go under the bridge and would come out onto Hunt's Place. My opinion, Hunt's Place, 54 Hunt's Place should be saved as a new exit from the sawmill. And you can see numbers 5 and 6. I went there on 2 random dates, took photographs. Conifer's engineer saw 4 vehicles. I'm finding 7.
Can you wrap it up, please, since we do have you?
Certainly. I'm on my last page. Picture number 7 shows the bottom of the exit ramp, the entrance to Conifer's site. And by the way, children on bicycles and pedestrians will be walking right across there to go on to Hunt's Place and wherever they want to go. There will be a bridge from the 3rd floor of the building to the Route 120 bridge. And the final photograph shows exactly what the site looks like. And if there were ever a new deceleration lane from the Sawmill River Parkway, it would come out in the earthen area. It would be tunneled right under between the Metro North and the Sawmill River Parkway. So you can read this at your leisure, and I appreciate your attention. Thank you very much.
Robert Fleischer.
Good evening. My name is Robert Fleischer. I'm also a resident of Newcastle. I'm also here to speak about the Conifer project. I would like to focus you on 2 roles that each of you have in this process. In one role, you are the guardians of the county funds that will be allocated to each of these projects. I am confident that the people in this room are more sophisticated than to simply look at this application in terms of how much county money will be paying for each unit. From the financials I have seen, the numbers come out in the range of approximately $100,000 per unit for county money. As I've said before, I am confident that you take your oversight roles past this basic data point. I hope you will look at other aspects of this project as well. Some things to consider. The overall cost per unit is approximately $545,000 per unit. I believe this is at the very high end, if not the highest end, of cost per unit in the entire county, approximately 40 to 70% higher than other active projects around the county. Conifer has budgeted themselves almost $2 million development fee for this taxpayer financed project. It can be difficult to match up all the sources and uses for a project like this, but it is hard to look at any party that pushes this project closer to approval as not being an enabler of this fee. I can only imagine the types of projects that each one of your own districts could achieve with access to this types of funding. Conifer is contributing $344,000 to the project cost. After the developer takes back its budgeted development fee, we have a project that only you can enable. If the developer doesn't have a small amount of skin in the game, they have no skin in the game. The current landowner receives $1.275 million for a third of an acre of contaminated property. The owner purchased this property in 2005, close to the top of the real estate market, for approximately $300,000. That's a very nice return over that time period. Beyond your fiduciary role for the county, I think it is important for you to consider your other role in this process. As I mentioned, it is easy to simply look at the cost per unit out of the county's funds and evaluate that in a vacuum. But we must recognize that this is an enabling action. When the state looks at this project as part of the overall process for more than $10 million of additional funding, they will undoubtedly look at your potential approval as a factor in granting their own. If no one steps back to look at all the pieces as a whole and simply takes comfort that no one else stopped this process, that is the definition of a broken system. As you do look around, please take note of the recent election results in the town of Newcastle that Bill mentioned before me. Where allowing this project to get to this current point was a major issue in the recent campaign. None of the candidates, not a single one running for town board, thought this was a good project. And the new bipartisan slate that was elected has stated they do not support this project. I cannot contemplate that this satisfies the board's vision for affordable housing development. Whatever our differences might be, I believe that we are better than this. We as a county, as a state, as a government, as a community. If there are people here who want to equate someone's opposition to this project to being against all affordable housing, I hope that open minds can see that there is a huge difference between being pro-affordable housing and being pro this project. Thank you very much for your time and your consideration.
Mr. Chairman, I have no other cards.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's go through the regular order of business.
Under unfinished business, please note the 3 items under unfinished business were all held over from the October 28, 2013 regular meeting and appear here as items of unfinished business for action. The first item, ID number 6240 from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations and Government Operations, an act authorizing the county to lease a vehicle to the City of Peekskill for use by the City of Peekskill's Police Department.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is an item that was held over at the last meeting and was approved through Budget and Appropriations in an effort to provide a mutual aid and rapid response plan for the northern, southwest, and southeastern parts of the county. This would be to use funding that's received through a grant from the Department of Homeland Security and would provide with mutual aid between the various municipalities for the sum of $1. I will turn this over to Government Operations for further discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia.
Oops, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Legislator Myers mentioned, this is an IMA with the City of Peekskill. The City of Peekskill will operate this vehicle. It is a vehicle that is intended to act as a regional rapid response for terrorism, acts of terrorism, other types of situations requiring more extensive response than local municipalities have. The City of Peekskill has agreed to maintain the vehicle and also to provide the personnel associated with staffing the vehicle as it's deployed around the county. It seems like it's mutually beneficial both for the municipality in question and for all the municipalities around it, and Government Operations felt this was a good project to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Members on this item. Mr. Testa, on this item? Oh, okay. All right, for this particular item, other members? Only thing that I want to comment, and certainly I'm a supporter of this particular item, but I do raise the point that we've talked about many times. We did create legislation for police vehicles to be leased to municipalities. Yonkers is still waiting for the particular vehicle that we had in mind when we created that legislation that allowed municipalities to bid on specific vehicles. And we still are waiting for that information. We did talk to the administration to follow that up for the city of Yonkers Police Department to lease a vehicle for the $1 deal. But with that, Madam Clerk, long roll call vote.
Mr. Harkam.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Mr. Gelfarb. Mr. Kaplowitz. Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan. Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Spreckman. Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Approved 17-0. Item 6362 from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations and Government Operations, a bond act authorizing the issuance of $530,000 in bonds to finance capital project RMSO1 Mearstead Site Development.
Ms. Myers.
Yes. Again, this was an item that was overed from the last Board of Legislators meeting. This is a bond act in the amount of $530,000 to fund repairs to a private home and property that was left to Westchester County called the Mearstead site. It is in need of roof repair and interior work, and this would fund the design for that work. The design would be done by a consultant because of the historic nature of this project. There are a number of artifacts in the house that need preserving, and the trails around this property, I'm told, are used all the time. I will turn this over to Government Operations.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In addition to the description given by Legislator Myers, I just wanted to mention that this is also the home of the Copeland House, and some of the renovations that will be done going forward after this design work is done is going to be working in conjunction with Copeland House with their foundation in order to preserve this. You know, it is used as a site for their programs and for their artists and residents. It is a beautiful site, but we know that there are some significant structural problems, and it was very clear that the scope of work that's needed to be done is fairly urgent, which is why the Parks Department actually wanted to advance this forward so that the design work could begin quickly, so that the most urgent repairs can be done also on an expeditious basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Mr. Harkam, members on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank Chairwoman Borgia and Chairwoman Myers for moving this along. This is something that I've been working with the administration on for 4 years now, and it's a fascinating project. It involves the adaptive reuse of one of our ancient park buildings. You know, we're all looking for public-private partnerships because some of these things are just too expensive for the taxpayers to undertake. And that's where Copeland House comes in. They're in Legislator Testa's district, and he's been in on some of these conversations, and I thank him for his work on this. They've been running a concert series there now. It's just started its 5th year. And this will be an artist-in-residence facility. And what will happen is Copeland House will raise the money and invest the money for the outbuildings that will be used for artist studios and performance spaces. So the county will be responsible for what's our property, the roof over the building, the windows. My favorite subject, new septic, needs to be ADA compliant, new electrical work, all those kind of things. And that's what this design work will do. And we're currently working on the agreement with Copeland House as to exactly what the responsibility for Copeland House will be. But this is really an innovative public-private partnership. The trails will remain open. The museum of the house will remain open, and yet we'll have this wonderful artist-in-residence facility. So I think this is a win-win. We've been working on this in a bipartisan fashion, and I think it's a good thing for the taxpayers of Westchester.
Thank you, Mr. Harkam. Other members? Unless there's objection, members, we'll take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 6443 from the Committee on Appointments is an act appointing Dennis Meal as a member of the Governing Board of the Westchester County Healthcare Corporation for a term to expire April 27, 2018.
Ms. Shimsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Meal is a successful businessman, has had a lot of involvement in issues relating to the governance of the Westchester County Healthcare Corporation, particularly collective bargaining and labor negotiations. He has had prior board of directors experience. He clearly understands what the role is and certainly has the energy to get started. And it's important that we begin replenishing that board with duly confirmed members, and I think Mr. Meal is a fine place to start, and I therefore move his approval here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Shimsky. Members on this item. Madam Clerk, a long roll call vote.
Mr. Harkam.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Mr. Gelfarb. Mr. Kaplowitz.
Yes.
Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
No.
Ms. Spreckman. Mr. Testa. Ms. Williams. Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Approved 10-7. Under Standing Committees, item 6499 from the Committees on Government Operations and Legislation, a resolution to set a public hearing on a local law amending the laws of Westchester County by adding a new chapter relating to the establishment of regulations to prevent the displacement of building service workers.
Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The two committees met again this afternoon and have reported this item for consideration by the board. We're asking that the public hearing on this proposed local law be set for Monday, November 25th, and that would be at 7:30 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Madam Clerk, a long roll call vote for the setting of the public hearing.
Mr. Harkam.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Mr. Gelfarb. Mr. Kaplowitz. Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
No.
Ms. Spreckman. Mr. Testa. Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Approved 16-1. Motions, resolutions, call of the districts.
Members, Ms. Perez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask if I can please have my name added to Legislators L. Williams. It was really sad for the Urena family in Mount Vernon. It was the family who sadly died in that tragic fire in Mount Vernon, and I had the opportunity of going over to the fundraising that they had and meeting, some aunts and uncles, some distant relatives. It was incredibly, incredibly sad. And from personal experience, of losing a loved one, there was just no right way to lose a loved one. So, there's just nothing that anybody could ever say or do to make you feel better. And, I extended not only my condolences, but my assistance to the family. And this is just one of my efforts of showing them that, we'll be there by their side. So I would like to join Legislator Williams on that. Thank you.
Mr. Williams.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to add to the Leonard Rankin to the memorial resolution and to reiterate Legislator Perez's comments. This was a very sad situation for this family who have lost their lives in this tragic fire. I've worked closely with the family. I was at the fundraising event where we raise funds to have the body shipped back to the Dominican Republic. But the great thing about having to be there is to see the outpouring of support and concern from the greater community from all over Westchester County for a family who really needed the support. And I would ask that if other members would like to join in solidarity and support of this family, I would certainly appreciate that.
Sure. Yes, yes.
Yes.
All legislators, Mr. Williams. Ms. Shimsky.
Yes, I have a query. Is Rosetta Egiziaco related to Denise?
We do not think so.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Ms. Borgia. Thank you, Ms. Burrows.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask my colleagues to consider joining me on the memorial resolution for Robert Rinaldi. This was a young man who had battled cancer for a number of years, died on his 28th birthday, was a very active member of our community, including our fire department and our emergency services, was a very well-loved member of the Austin community, and also happens to be the cousin of my former opponent. So I think it would mean a lot to the family if all legislators would join on that one.
All legislators, Ms. Borgia, thank you so much. Other members? All right. Mr. Harcum, not yet. First, we want to recognize that everyone that ran here was reelected, so congratulations to all of you. But I also want to recognize that we have two legislative elects that are here or were here, Ben Boykin and Catherine Parker, who was here as well. Mr. Harcum, if we all get to say, please rise and observe a moment of silence for the people that were mentioned in the memorial resolutions. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would move that we adjourn and that we reconvene on November 25th at 7.
Mr. Maizano. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Harcum?
Yep.
Mr. Maizano? Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. On the motion of Mr. Harcum, the board stands adjourned.